A very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day three, the final day of the second edition of Wood Presents vdonxtasia Week 2022. vdonxtasia Week is the virtual avatar of our annual conference vdonxtasia, the oldest and the most engaging B2B event in the online video space, held annually since 2017. Before we move on, we'd like to thank our presenting partner, Wood, and Insights partner, NEPA, for their support. Moving on to today's first session. In spite of being an outsider to the subcontinent, Amazon Prime Video succeeded in quickly creating a rapport with the Indian viewer with shows such as Inside Edge, Mirzapur, and The Family Man. These shows have allowed this relatively new player to go beyond the metros and penetrate the Hindi heartland. In an interview with Aparna Purohit, head of India Originals, and Sushant Sreeram, director SWAT at Amazon Prime Video India, we understand what's next for the platform, a dive into the regional language markets, or something else altogether. The interviewer of the session is Sreeram, curator of vdonxtasia and co-founder and CEO at AFAX. Welcome, everyone. The audience is requested to please stay back as we have another interesting session from 4:30 p.m. Over to you, Mr. Khandekar.
Yeah, thank you, Devashish. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, Aparna, Sushant. The way in which Amazon Prime Video has become a part of our lives is really quite amazing. I was just thinking about this, and it's hard to imagine that 5 years back, we hardly knew that it even existed. It's really something. And they've had many hit shows. I'm sure other platforms have had hit shows. But the interesting thing about Amazon Prime is that the number of their shows which have gone into subsequent seasons, and that is often the test of whether a show is truly successful, because it's always possible to hype a show in its first season. If you're not going to see it the next year, I mean, how does it matter? You can hype it as much as you like. But several of the shows have gone into subsequent seasons. And that's one of the reasons I think we feel a greater sense of closeness, because we have seen those shows over a sustained period of time. So let me start, Aparna, with my first question, which is that, you've had so many of your shows have had multiple seasons. What are the lessons learned in creating these shows? I know I'm coming up with a big question right at the beginning, but still, because when you went in, I mean, you must be far more confident today than you were in the years before. What is it that you've learned about what makes a show that people want to see year after year, season after season? Over to you.
First of all, thank you so much for having us here today, and thank you for acknowledging the fact that our shows have become a part of the popular culture. And this is a great question to start with. I really believe that our local originals are like are the key pillar of our growth, and our endeavor since the very beginning has been to tell local stories that are authentic, that are relatable, are really rooted, and are reflective of our tastes and cultures. We've always sort of strived to tell stories that can connect, that are thought-provoking, and are a part of the popular culture, characters that have become a part of our lives, and shows that will hopefully outlast us. And through this journey of last 5 years, you're right, we have picked up some interesting lessons along the way. The first one, I would say, is that, we are in a very unique time. And I've often said that, this is the renaissance of Indian entertainment, where all kinds of stories are being told, all kinds of genres are being explored. And we've tried to find newer stories. We've never sort of feared experimentation. The thinking at heart is, partnership with really passionate creators, and really help them translate their vision in the best possible way on screen. The first lesson I'd say is Indian consumers have become very discerning. They have a voracious appetite for content. And this need for entertainment is pervasive. It's no longer limited to a few hours in front of television or, an occasional outing with family to go out for a movie.
Okay.
People are watching content on the go while traveling, in the time that is convenient to them, on the devices that they prefer. So it's really important to engage them. And for us, everything begins with a good story. Like I mentioned earlier, to tell authentic stories, uh,
Okay.
to really cater to the customers that are evolving, and their tastes and preferences are changing, and they're, by the way, watching content not just from across the country but across the world. So, we are all vying for that same span of attention. The second is that the audiences want variety. uh, their choices are evolving, and they have access to content from across the world, and their demand is both local and international content.
Can I
uh,
stop you? Can I stop you then and
sure,
ask you one
sure,
question,
sure.
which I was going to ask you, but your sentence prods me to ask it now, which is that I find it paradoxical that the best stories, the stories that travel the most, are the ones that tend to be very often the most local. I mean, you would think that, oh, listen, we need an international theme, otherwise, the story won't travel. But a lot of local stories, is that a paradox, or does it seem paradoxical to me? And it is not a paradox at all. And there's a truth
No.
staring at me which I can't see. So tell me.
We've always believed that the more local you are, the more global you are. Stories that really, travel or have the legs to travel are those that are truly rooted, in the soil and provide a window into your culture. Even in the past, if you see Satyajit Ray's stories, his films,
Right.
so intensely local that they became global. So I really feel that representation of the diversity of our culture, it's of the country, of our languages, is the key. And we are now sort of expanding our original offering into so many more languages and genres. And I really believe that good stories transcend. I mean, a marvelous Mrs. Maisel connects with me emotionally as much as a great Indian kitchen, from Kerala does. So mm, these barriers are really, evaporating, and good
But
content really transcends.
so, so Sushant, to move to you. So you had this, this great content which has been created over time, but you've also been on the wonderful thing about, Prime Video's success in India has been it's not just the fact that the content has worked, and it has traveled past the large cities into smaller towns and is accepted there, but also the business side has clicked. I mean, you have both arms, both legs, and one could work and the other one trips. How, when you look back at how how well the SWOT service has penetrated, what are the big challenges? What are the big decisions that were taken and which worked out? Because at any one point, one thing could trip you, one pricing issue, one something, anything.
You're absolutely right, Shrikant, and thanks once again for having us over. You're absolutely right. At any point of time, one of the many things could have tripped us over, and it was even more interesting. It's been even more interesting for us over the last 5 years. Because we were trying out a lot of things at once, right? Because we realized very early on, and we kind of committed to it, that we had to solve for multiple customer expectations all together, right? And and not one after the other. So we had to solve, and Aparna touched upon how we think about great stories and great content. We had to think about distribution. We had to think about accessibility on devices anytime, anywhere, affordability of the Prime membership, offering, marketing events. So we had to do all of this all at once, supercharged. And we knew that if we work backwards on the customer consistently, the chances of us tripping are probably going to be low. The 3 or 4 key themes that come up, right? And I think Aparna touched upon a couple of them. One was we had to super serve our diverse customer taste, right? It's with fantastic cinematic quality, content, right, across genres, needs, languages, and we had to do this working with an amazing set of and a very, very diverse set of storytellers, right? Including if you look at the last couple of years, 18 months, we've premiered 52 films across 6 languages, right? We pioneered a new model of distribution, which is direct to service. Obviously this couldn't have happened, in close collaboration with our partners. And, so that was one. We had to super serve across a diversity of our, customers' entertainment needs. We had to solve for access, right? Not just localization, not just for making shows and making movies available in languages of choice, but we had to solve for access via distribution, via things like Prime Video Mobile Edition, right? In a country which is predominantly a prepaid customer, and where you have a large set of customers who are sitting on the fence about a subscription video on demand service, we had to make it easy for them to sample. We had to make it easy for them to engage with the category and go on to become avid customers. So we had to do a bunch of things all at once, and customers have been fortunately extremely welcoming of almost everything that we've done so far. So we haven't had an issue of trying something out and not having it stick. But again, as I said, we're just getting started. There's just so much more to do. Prime Video is all in on India.
Yeah, great. How okay, Sushant, next thing is that how different if you were to compare your approach in India compared to what it has been in other large markets, what was unique about the way, in business terms, you approach the market? Was it the fact that it was primarily 5 years back, it was primarily on mobile? Even now, it's mostly mobile, but
yeah,
to a TV. So
there's actually a bunch of things. Not just on device of access we can. So we had to think about, for example, content, right? We have two twin engines of what people want to watch, right? We have exclusive, fantastic cinematic quality originals, and then we have licensed shows and movies. So we had to power both the engines together at once, right? We had to make heavy investments in our licensed slate. The second was building awareness and consideration for the category itself, right? So because if you look at 5 years ago, the category was at a stage where you had a very defined set of early adopters to the category, to the subscription video on demand category. So we had to encourage, we had to really prove out the value proposition, right, for Prime Video, right? Obviously, it helps that Prime Video is part of a larger Prime program, right? So it comes with a whole host of other benefits, and that makes the decision for a household so much easier. And then we had to solve for things like accessibility and distribution, right? It's one thing for us to have an app, but how do we make it easy for customers to sample, right? How do we make it easy for customers to continue to be streamers of Prime Video, right? Today you can thanks to our partnership with Airtel, you can buy a prepaid add-on or a bundle of your Airtel subscription and continue to get access to Prime Video. So it was a lot of things. I can't put my finger on any one of them, but we realized very early on that we had to go all guns blazing on all of them together at once.
Aparna, when you look at originals, and there's a huge cornucopia of content on Amazon, what do you see as the primary purpose or role of originals? What at the center, because there's so much of content, right? So originals relatively will be far less than the overall amount of content that you have. So what is the primary thing that you think your content that you're in charge of should create?
I think, like I mentioned earlier, local originals that we create here are the key pillar of our has been the key pillar of our growth here, and they really help define the service. The fact that we are authentic, diverse, inclusive, all gets sort of represented through our content. The fact that we are able to tell stories that are authentic, that are entrenched in our culture, the fact that we are able to cast for characters and not really just look at star power, whether it is Jaydeep Pehlawat as Hathiram Chaudhary or Manoj Bajpayee as Shrikant Tiwari, or casting, Mariam Ronaldo Singh as Chini in Patal Lok. The fact that we are able to provide a platform to not just established talent, but also provide a platform to emerging, new, independent cinematic voices. The fact that 50% out of the 50% of our released slate, most of the talent is fresh, and it's even higher for the slate that is in sort of production at the moment. The fact that our shows, whether it is Mirzapur, Made in Heaven, Patal Lok, Family Man, Inside Edge, have become a part of the zeitgeist. Our films like Shesha, Jai Bhim, are being watched not just in India but across the world, and this is what encourages us to constantly innovate and push the envelope. tell me any other show, in Hindi which begins with 5 minutes in Malayalam. A Family Man did. The kind of cross pollination of talent that this has led to, the fact that we are able to partner with so many of our local film industries, the fact that we are now really expanding our slate, looking at scripted, unscripted, docu-series, true crime. It allows us to experiment and provide to our customers best talent which can sit in the company of some of the best international talent.
Aparna, but as you go into, you're what now in 10 languages, or is it more now?
We are in 9 Indian languages and English, so yes, 10.
And that's 10. How do you when you go into local language originals, that you have originals in all of these now? Do you have
Well, we have films in all of these languages. As far as the originals are concerned, we started with Hindi. We wanted to strengthen that pillar.
Right.
And then we went into Tamil. In Tamil, we've launched shows like Comic Stan, Sema Comedy Pa. We had Senga Siri Papam. We also had an anthology called Pudum Pudukale, and now a second edition of that called Pudum Pudukale Vidyata. And going forward, you will see a lot more.
But isn't it tricky because I mean the level, the ecosystem in each language is developed quite differently, isn't it? And you are, I mean, you have you run it centrally, as it were, but the different parts that you want to create, they are at different levels. How do you deal with that?
Oh no, we believe in having local boots on the ground. We have teams in each of these languages. We have a team in Chennai. We have a team in Hyderabad that is helping us tap into the local ecosystem. And going forward, like I said, we're going to be expanding into other languages, and we will have local teams. I don't profess to know, all the storytelling.
I didn't mean in that sense, but you do take the decision. So that, right?
Our tenet across the company remains the same, which is putting customers at the front and center of all decisions. And we will continue to go where our customers are. We'll continue to serve to them what they want to watch.
Okay, so on the subject of Indian languages, a question for you, Sushant. So you have, your content is available in 10 languages, and how many languages is the interface available? I last read 3, but maybe it's more now, and I don't know.
Sorry, it is available in English and 3 Indian languages.
Which are the 3?
Hindi, Tamil, and Telugu.
Hindi, Tamil, Telugu. How difficult is it? I mean, just I think for the audience, that if you're moving into 10 languages, how much is it? Why is it so complicated? I'm sure it is. There must be a very good reason. But to have the interface in all the languages in which the content is available?
I'm trying to think of a really good parallel to be able to explain this. When you think of other forms of media, right? We have an English-speaking audience, right? And a large part of the internet in India is built around English. But when you look at some of the other emerging, sort of entertainment news destinations, they're actually deeply localized by language and by topics, right? So it becomes kind of obvious, if our ambition is to be the most loved, the most used, the most, delightful video streaming service, we had to, kind of became obvious to us that we had to ensure that language did not become a barrier, either language of the entertainment that customers are looking for or the way they access it. The worst thing that we could do is have a fantastic Tamil movie or a Tamil show and, make it hard for customers to be able to get to it because we had, an artificial barrier of English only language. So simple.
Okay. So Aparna, to come back to you, you've seen this now taste evolve over the last 5.5 years. How has the bar been raised for you? Because people's eyes have also got trained, right? Their tastes have changed also, and you've changed them. I mean, you with Amazon and other platforms. How is what is the expectation? It's a very general question from shows different from in 2022 than it might have been, say, 2016. At a very broad level, I just mean that people are just used to OTT much more than I think at that time they were wowed by pretty much very quickly with everything, but now they've also been sated, quite a bit. What is the big change?
Well, that's again a great question. When we started out, it was really us going to, creators, knocking on their doors and asking them to come and create shows for us.
Yeah.
To now, about 5.5 years later, we have, the established talent from across the country, wanting to create content for us.
Right.
And also, you're absolutely right. The audiences have become discerning because they are now watching the best content, like I said, not just from within our country, but across the globe. So,
Right.
the responsibility is a lot more. We have to continuously raise the bar. We
Right.
also need to double down, and one of the challenges that we continue to face, and pandemic didn't make it easy for us, is to come back with the subsequent season within time.
Okay.
And last 2 years have been extremely challenging, and of course we prioritize health and safety of our people over everything else, but that continues to be a challenge. But otherwise, I would say that keeping customers at the front and center, doubling down on localization, to enable our customers across the country to watch the content
Right.
in the language that they prefer. Continue to collaborating with really passionate storytellers. Continue to be able to take risk and really impact the entire creative economy of this country, providing platform to newer voices, both in front of camera and behind the camera. I think when that is there, a new fresh content will keep coming out and audiences will be delighted.
Okay, so one of the advantages you have, on OTT is that the feedback mechanism is phenomenal. You know how many people have watched a show for how long, what is the point at which people dropped off, etc., right? So I'm sure you've been asked this question, but it's such an interesting question from the outside that I have to ask it, which is it the data or the script or your instinct? What is it that makes you say that's a show, let's go for it?
Great question again. And
no, I'm sure it can't be great. You must have been asked this.
It is a great question, and I'm so thankful that I have my colleague Sushant to take the data part of it.
All right.
I can just concentrate on the creative aspect. I'm really happy, and that's why I say it's great.
Right.
But for me, anything that comes on my table, the most important thing for us is story. How engaging, compelling, differentiated is that story? Why must that story be told? Out of all the hundreds of concepts that are sitting on our table, why should we pick this one? And how passionate is the storyteller? Is this the story that's keeping him up at nights? That, I think, is the starting point for us. And the second is there enough and more of this genre? Are audiences watching a lot of it? Is this a genre that is under indexed? Should we be going for it? Those are really the starting points for us. And we spend a lot of time developing. Sometimes it takes over 9 to 12 months in the writer's room, polishing, writing, rewriting our stories. And once a story goes into a season 2, that tells you whether it's been successful or not. Because again, for us, every decision is customer backwards, and it's gone into a season 2 because the customers have asked for it.
Okay, thank you. That's a really interesting answer. Sushant, how do you see, you have to, so Aparna and a team create this content plus the licensed content, and the sum of it is that it should be enough, it should be compelling enough for you and your team to be able to sell to subscribers or potential subscribers. How do you see content? Aparna sees it in a certain way, right? What do you look for in it?
Oh, so yeah, I first look for the glint of excitement in Aparna's eyes when she comes to us with a story or an idea. It is infectious, and to the previous question, data can help sharpen instinct, right? But I don't think it's meant to replace it, right? Data can play a role, and insights and how customers are behaving, and all of that essentially comes into the fore when we have a show or, and we say, who is this for, right? Who is the core audience? How do we position it? How do we build, go-to-market plans and all of that? But, back to your question. The important thing is to ensure that, for Prime members, we have a steady drumbeat of shows and movies that, every time they turn on the Prime Video app or the Prime Video app on their Fire TV, on their phone, on their tablet, what have you, there's something new and exciting for them to watch that is relevant to them, right? And the way we think of it is bringing together, as I said, the twin engines of originals and licensed content to make sure that we're always, hitting that drumbeat. If we start missing beats, right, for let's say a customer in, Malayalam, right? That's when we start getting, asking ourselves the question of, okay, how do we address this, right? How do we quickly turn this around? Because at the end of the day, customers have, paid for a Prime membership, and a key benefit of that is Prime Video, right? Great entertainment, right? That leave a lasting impression on you and that take you, mentally places. So to not deliver on it will be, will be something that we absolutely try and avoid. Fortunately, so far, we've had a good run across the languages, and every time Aparna comes up, with a great story and a great idea, the glinter and I kind of gives it away, and then we all kind of marshal around it.
I noticed Aparna is putting all the responsibility on you.
Huh? Pretty much.
It's a very kind hand.
We just got like 3 minutes to go. So I want to ask you, Aparna, now the world is opening up a bit. I hope something else doesn't come along, but it's clearly there's less fear. Okay, there's a little more. There's a sense of maybe we are heading a little more towards normalcy than we have ever had reason to believe over the last 2 years. What is it going to do? How is it going to influence, trends in content? And in that apart, are there other trends that you would like to point to?
What's interesting is that in the last 2 years, consuming content on digital has become a habit. It's become a part of our existence now. The key trends that I would say is that viewers are turning borderless. Entertainment itself is becoming non-binary. Viewers don't just watch one genre, one language, or one category of entertainment. And that is why we are trying to address this growing thirst for local, original, and relatable stories across new categories, languages, and genres. I strongly believe that our audiences will continue to demand choice as the idea of a personalized, programmable entertainment watch list is becoming more and more mainstream. The demand for international content will increase, and the growth is going to come from both tier 2 and rural areas. Today, Amazon Prime Video is serving to almost 99% pin codes in the country. The Indian content is going to be watched by not just viewers across the length and breadth of the country, but across the world. 1 out of every 5 viewers that we have for our originals or films is from outside India. So I really feel that Indian
really
content is
amazing.
going internationally.
Sushant, how is it going to change things for you from a getting subscription point of view as the world open up? For one, I think a lot of big movies may not be available to you, right? Than they were last year. That's one thing. But other than that, at a subscription level, how will the opening up affect? How will it? I mean, does it put the wind behind you, or does it present fresh challenges? How does it work?
No, I think the short answer is I think it'll give a boost to the entire kind of storytelling ecosystem, right? Obviously, storytellers have had to struggle with being able to tell the stories, and produce them at a scale that they would like to, and get them, reachable and accessible to customers in a manner that they would like to. Obviously, it's been a challenge, right? So I'm hoping that as the world returns to some sense of normalcy, I don't know what that will look like. I'm not a soothsayer, but I'm hoping that what that will allow us to do is, for customers to, again, be, exposed to the new wave of storytelling across the board, across movies and series. For us, what really remains consistent is, what we have done, over the last 5 years, over the last 2 months, and will continue to, which is, doubling down on the opportunity that customers have, presented to us. And as I said earlier, we continue to be all in on India.
Great. I think may you have lots and lots of, impactful originals, and may you have cohorts and cohorts of fresh subscribers. Thank you very much for joining us today. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Thank you so
And
much.
please stay.
Thank
We
you.
have another session coming up. Thank you, Aparna. Thank you, Sushant. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.